What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 3 top 40 running back rankings. I did do the start sits last week. Some people liked it, others didn't. To be totally honest with you guys, it just didn't really hit in the algorithm in the way I expected. So we're going back to last year, just diving straight into the rankings. But with going through my top 40, like this early on in the week, I'm pretty much going to be touched on every single backfield, just like I did in these start sit videos. If you enjoy, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. But let's just dive right into the tiers. And I do just want to say right off the bat, we are only 2 games into the season. It's still a pretty small sample size. If you thought someone was going to be amazing coming into the season and they've underwhelmed through 2 weeks, it's not the end of the world. Same thing, someone having a hot start doesn't mean they're necessarily going to carry it throughout the entire season. So still want to, just keep in mind it's a very small sample size. But in tier 1 here, I have Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. CMC's usage has just been top tier. He has 17 total targets through 2 weeks. He has put up 23.2 and then 22.7 PPR points in the first 2 weeks. He is going to be my RB1 here against the Cardinals. Then we have Bijan Robinson going up against the Panthers. Bijan's been great. He's second in the NFL in scrimmage yards, getting involved as a pass catcher with 6 targets per game. I also think game script wise, this could be a nice matchup here against the Panthers. And then the last guy in this tier is Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, the Lions are going to be 5.5-point dogs in this matchup, but I actually think that kind of favors Jahmyr Gibbs' skill set, where I think he is going to be very involved as a pass catcher, and I think he can deliver another solid receiving game. In week 1, we saw that trailing game script against the Packers, and I want to say he caught 10 total balls in that game. I do think that's in the range of outcomes here against the Ravens. Then moving into tier 2, these are all still locks in your lineup, obviously. Saquon Barkley, James Cook, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and Josh Jacobs. Saquon, a little bit of a slow start to the season, kind of an inefficient start, only averaging 3.7 yards per carry. It would be nice if the Eagles could get something going through the air, so that would be a little bit of a threat. But like I talked about, it's 2 weeks. If Saquon's healthy, he's obviously going to be locked into your lineup. Then we have James Cook, who has started off the season very strong. He is the running back 1 in points per game. He's averaging 20 opportunities a game. And then this is a really strong matchup here for the Bills, where they are first in implied points. James Cook, obviously, locked into your lineup. Then we have Devon Achane. And despite the vibes kind of being off with the Dolphins, Devon Achane has logged 2 very strong games. And just like last year, we are seeing Achane get super involved as a pass catcher. He is top 3 in targets, receiving yards, receptions, and target share. This is going to be a trailing game script against the Bills. I want to say they're like 12.5-point dogs. There is going to be passing volume out there for Devon Achane, and I do think he comes through. Then as my RB7, I have Derrick Henry. And this was like a colossal flop game out of Derrick Henry. You had the game script lined up against the Browns. The Ravens put up a ton of points. And Derrick Henry with 11 carries for 23 yards, no touchdowns, did not catch a pass. Like, it was brutal because it's not like one of these games where everything just went wrong. Like, things went right for this offense, and none of it, was to the benefit of Derrick Henry. So I would expect a bounce back. Obviously, that's going to be like, a season low performance from him. Going up against the Lions, it's not the best matchup, but this is still Derrick Henry. 1 bad week isn't going to scare me off of him. Then we have Jonathan Taylor, who's been a monster to start off the season. He is leading the NFL in scrimmage yards. He's also leading in carries and rushing yards. Had a big reception in week 2, but also dominating on the ground. Game script wise, probably going to be a nice matchup here against the Titans. 2 more guys in this tier. The first one is going to be Bucky Irving. Strong game on Monday Night Football. 17 carries for 71 yards. Added 6 for 50 through the air. Is a little bit disappointing that he kind of lost out on the goal line touch to Rachaad White, but that's not a massive concern for me. I'm certainly not going to complain about, 120 yards from scrimmage and 23 touches. And then the last guy in this tier, Josh Jacobs, going up against the Browns. The Packers are likely going to put up points in this matchup. They have the 4th highest implied point total. They're 8.5-point favorites. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be someone who gets a lot of volume on the ground this year, especially just looking at how dominant this defense is. Like, I think for the pass catchers, it might actually be tough just because they're going to be leading in so many games. The issue is that Jacobs has not been involved as a pass catcher through 2 games, only 1 total reception. You'd like to see an uptick there, but still just based on his volume, his touchdown upside, he is going to slot into my top 10. Now, moving into the third tier, we have Alvin Kamara going up against the Seahawks. He has seen some really solid usage to start off the season, 16 carries, 4 targets a game. The Saints offense has actually looked, more competent than I think, myself and a lot of people were expecting heading into the season. So that's a plus. Back end RB1 for me this week. Then we have Ashton Genty. This is definitely one of the players I'm not trying to way overreact to. Overall, this was just not a great week for some of the higher profile rookie running backs. It was a good week for some of the early day 3 options, but for Genty, Henderson, Hampton, Harvey, the vibes were not great this week for those guys, but Genty's usage is still strong. He took 14 of the 21 running back opportunities. The usage is there. I'm a believer in the player. I'm just not going to freak out after 2 down weeks. Then I have Kyren Williams. Not a great matchup here against the Eagles, but his usage is still just very strong, averaging 18 opportunities per game. They're bottom 10 in implied points, but I don't think this is a matchup where you're just completely screwed as a running back. The usage is going to be there. He's going to have touchdown upside. Still a fringe RB1 option for me. Then someone who's had 2 really strong games. We have Travis Etienne going up against the Texans. So far this season, Etienne is second in rushing yards. He's averaging 7.1 yards per carry. But what's interesting is that despite him completely balling out through 2 weeks, he kind of has Bashal Tutin nipping on his heels a little bit. We actually saw after the Tank Bigsby trade, Travis Etienne's opportunity share fell from 66% in week 1 to 59% in week 2. Now, this definitely isn't a week 3 concern. I don't think we're going to go out on Sunday and see Tank Bigsby Bashal Tutin just completely overtake him. But it is the fact that Bashal Tutin has also been super productive. If you guys have followed the channel throughout the offseason, I'm very in on Bashal Tutin. So Travis Etienne is still a great start. He's getting involved as a pass catcher. Liam Cohen has really worked wonders for both his run game and just the receiving from these running backs. But he's probably not going to get similar usage to some of the other guys within this tier. And then the last guy I have, a huge riser from the preseason, Javonte Williams. He is the RB3 in points per game. The usage is there, 16.5 carries, 5 targets per game. This might actually be too low. I think the Cowboys are going to be able to put up points in this matchup. And just from a real life perspective, Javonte looks fresh. This does not look like the same guy from the last couple of seasons. Maybe he just needed, a few years removed for that torn ACL to kind of get back or, close to back to his pre-ACL form. But he's looked great so far. If he has another big game, then there's going to be, some serious conversations about him being a locked-in running back 1 moving forward. Then moving into tier 4, this is kind of a weird tier. Have some guys with some solid usage, maybe not the best offenses, or guys in more of committees. So we have Chase Brown. Obviously, the Joe Burrow injury, pretty big hit to this Bengals offense. I don't think it's quite as bad, just given the Jake Browning factor of it all, where Browning has come in and actually been pretty productive. It's not like they're bringing in a backup who's just going to strictly game manage, which for fantasy is kind of a bummer. So I don't think, hope is lost here for Chase Brown. His usage is still going to be great. He took all 19 running back opportunities in week 2. You did not have another running back, get a touch in that game. But this is a tough matchup here against the Vikings. The Bengals are tied for the 6th lowest implied point total. So Chase Brown, more of a high-end to mid-tier running back 2 this week. Then I have Jaylen Warren going up against the Patriots. Hopefully this big week 2 from Jaylen Warren can kind of rid us of the weird Kenneth Gainwell BS of him being super involved in week 1. Jaylen Warren had an insane long reception in this game, just broke 1 million tackles. He had 134 yards from scrimmage. He should be the clear-cut RB1 moving forward on an offense that, hasn't looked bad through 2 weeks. Then I have James Conner as my running back 18. Not a great start to the season. The usage been a little bit iffy, only 14 opportunities per game. I think, potentially a bigger issue than just that number is that Trey Benson actually ran more routes than James Conner in week 2, which is not ideal. You're kind of hoping that even if Conner is letting up some usage to Trey Benson, that he's still dominating the goal line and getting super involved as a pass catcher. I still think he's going to have that goal line role, but it's not great if he is losing out on those receiving opportunities. My running back 19 is going to be Jordan Mason going up against the Bengals. This Vikings offense is very banged up. The offensive line has been hampered with injuries. J.J. McCarthy now going to miss time. This is assuming that Aaron Jones does miss this week. So Jordan Mason is probably going to be lined up for workhorse usage. The only issue is just what does this offense even look like and how valuable is that actually? I think mid-tier RB2 at this point in the week is a fair spot to have him. Then I have Breece Hall going up against the Buccaneers. Not a great matchup here against the Bucs. We did see week 2, he took a decent percentage of this backfield, 12 of the 18 running back opportunities. Justin Fields potentially missing this game with a concussion. The Jets overall were just pretty rough in week 2, but I still believe in Breece as the talent and hope they can have a bounce back against the Buccaneers. Then I have Chuba Hubbard going up against the Falcons. He's had a really solid start to the season. He's the running back 7 in points per game, but we just got news that their O-line very banged up. Hunt and Corbett both going on the IR. He has been involved as a pass catcher. Usage actually saw a bump, especially in his routes and snaps in week 2, which is a positive. But this offense hasn't looked great through 2 weeks. Now you have the offensive line, very banged up. It just feels like kind of like a gross situation, even if his usage is very strong. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be DeAndre Swift going up against the Cowboys. Hasn't been pretty, but he is averaging 18 opportunities per game, and the Bears are somehow 6th in implied points. So if they are going to be racking up the score here, DeAndre Swift's usage has been solid. It does feel like he should be at the very least a running back 2 option. Now moving into tier 5, kind of an interesting tier. I'm going to start off this tier with Kenneth Walker. Now this might seem low given the matchup and, just how good he looked in week 2. But in terms of like the snaps, the routes, it was still not great for Kenneth Walker. In fact, it was still pretty bad. Zach Charbonnet outsnapped him 36-23. Charbonnet ran 12 routes to Kenneth Walker 6. Obviously, when you look at the box score, Kenneth Walker blew him out of the water. 13 carries for 105 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 15 carries for 10 yards. So you could potentially project that maybe more of this backfield is going to go towards Kenneth Walker. But we do have to remember, like week 1, Charbonnet was the more productive guy. We saw pretty similar usage in week 2. So I do prefer Kenneth Walker. Obviously, I have him ranked ahead of Zach Charbonnet. But I'm also not like fully ready to buy in this given week that all of a sudden we're going to see the usage bounce back to what it was last year. This could be a great spot for him. I like the matchup. The game script is going to be in his favor, but I just don't trust the usage at this point with what we've seen through 2 weeks. Then I have Tony Pollard. His usage has been pretty strong, 38 carries through 2 games. The issue is he's just not getting involved as a pass catcher, only 2 targets. And then also the touchdown upside just hasn't been there. He has not scored yet this year. And then the last guy here, J.K. Dobbins, he just has like a very low ceiling role where he's going to get 14, 15, 16 carries. He's going to get a target or 2, and really like him being fantasy relevant is going to depend on him getting into the end zone. If he can add a touchdown to like his 65, 70 rushing yards, that's obviously going to make him a solid option. But if he has that 65, 70 yards, 1 reception for 5 yards, then he's obviously not a super desirable option in your fantasy lineup. But through 2 weeks, he has been able to get into the end zone. Not a great matchup, though, going up against the Chargers. Then looking at a pretty large tier 6, I have Amarion Hampton going up against the Broncos to start it off. This was definitely not a great week for him. His usage was amazing in week 1, just didn't really come through. In week 2, he was still the clear leader in snaps and routes, but he had 11 opportunities to Najee Harris's 10. I guess somewhat good and bad, like neither dude was super productive, so it's not like I expect Najee to really build on his usage. It's just been a little bit underwhelming through 2 weeks. I'm obviously not fading him. He's still a high-end running back 3 for me. He's on a good offense. I still think the usage could be there, and at some point we are going to get a breakout out of Amarion Hampton. Then we have Ramondre Stevenson going up against the Steelers. This was a pretty rough week 2 for a Travion Henderson truther like myself. He had 16 opportunities, Ramondre did, to Antonio Gibson's 6, to Travion Henderson's 5, and Ramondre made the most of those opportunities, 142 scrimmage yards. I still think it's kind of a gross running back room if this is going to be like a 3-headed committee, but it does look like Ramondre is leading it, at least at this point in the season. Running back 28, I have David Montgomery going up against the Ravens. Not a good game script for Montgomery. They're 5.5-point dogs here against the Ravens, and the usage hasn't been amazing, like only 13.5 opportunities per game through 2 weeks. Then I have Zach Charbonnet going up against the Saints. Like I talked about, Charbonnet had a really rough week 2, but usage-wise, it was still pretty solid. They are favored in this game by 7 points. I would not be shocked if we saw both Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet have like fantasy relevant performances in this matchup. Then someone who I liked heading into the season and really kind of had a breakout week 2, it is Cam Scatabo. Actually, back-to-back, I talked about how like a lot of the higher profile rookie running backs kind of regressed in their usage. Cam Scatabo and Bashal Tutin both took steps forward. So for Scatabo, he went from like pretty much the clear RB2 or even like RB3 behind Singletary, Tyron Tracy dominating the usage, to jumping all the way up to a 52% snap share, 41% route participation. He took 11 of the 17 carries, 3 of the 9 targets, turned it into a 13.9 PPR point day. The issue here in week 3 is that the usage still could be somewhat up in the air. Like I would have thought Tyron Tracy was a pretty solid start last week, just given the usage. That completely flipped. It's also just not a great matchup here against the Chiefs. They are really tough to run the ball against. And then also game script wise, if they are trailing, is this going to be a game where, Cam Scatabo has a big performance, or is this going to be more of a Tyrone Tracy matchup? So that's why I have him here as a mid-tier running back 3. And then for Bashal Tutin, I think this guy was my most drafted player in redraft this year. I was very high on him. Obviously, the Tank Bigsby trade kind of opened some things up, but he goes out in week 2, only plays 18 snaps, but he touches the ball on 10 of them, 8 carries for 42 yards, 2 receptions for 32 yards and a touchdown, and had a 35% opportunity share. So he, expanded his role. He made the most of those opportunities. I've been very in on Bashal Tutin. I think you have to have loved what you saw in week 2. And even though he's the running back 2 on this Jaguars offense, like they're getting both these guys involved. He's a player. He can rip off big plays even in limited usage. He is my running back 31. Then after those two, I actually have another rookie with Bill Krosky-Merritt. This might seem low to some people, especially with the Austin Eckler injury. I do think from like a game script perspective, they're third in implied points. They're 5.5 point favorites. It is good. I don't think the Eckler injury is really going to have like a massive swing on Krosky-Merritt here. Like I do think it helps him a little bit, but the Commanders do kind of separate their running back duties, where Eckler is more of like that third down receiving back. Like I think Jeremy McNichols is probably going to step in and take a lot of that Eckler usage, whereas, Bill Krosky-Merritt more of like the early down guy, working in near the goal line. Now, he has been very efficient early on in the season, 14 carries for 99 yards. I certainly think just based on this game script and potentially the Eckler injury, like there's no way we're going to see week 2 usage where he's touching the ball, 4 or 5 times in that matchup. But I also do want to remind people that like this is not a super high upside role in this Commanders offense, where if we do have Jaden Daniels playing, he is banged up. Like he's going to be vulturing near the goal line. Bill Krosky-Merritt's probably not going to be super involved as a pass catcher. So I kind of want to temper expectations. He's a mid-tier RB3 option for me this week. I would love to see it. Like I would love to see him go out, have a big game. It's certainly possible. I just think people might be a little bit ahead of their skis here when it comes to Bill Krosky-Merritt. 2 more guys in this tier. I have Nick Chubb going up against the Jaguars. Chubb is the clear running back 1, 12 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 29 yards. The big kind of red flag from this game was that Dare Ngumbawale took 3 of the 4 goal line snaps. When you're looking at this offense and like the offensive line is poor, the efficiency is probably not going to be there, the receiving upside is limited for Nick Chubb, you're really going to want him to have that touchdown upside. And that's going to be tough to get to if Dare's taken 75% of the goal line, snaps. So something to look out for, but still playable as like a back end RB3. And then the last guy in this tier is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. Decent matchup here against the Giants. Game script wise, they're 5.5 point favorites. Pacheco does only have 20 opportunities through 2 weeks, which is not great. None of these running backs have really done anything for the Chiefs, but this could be a spot where maybe they get right here against the Giants. And then this final tier, I'd prefer to not have to play these guys, but I get it given your situation. We have Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, 3 rookies right off the rip, and then Kareem Hunt, Tyler Algier, and Tyron Tracy. Quinshawn Judkins' first game, 10 carries, 61 rushing yards, 3 receptions for 10 yards. We did see kind of gross usage with these Browns running backs, where all 3 actually ended up between 10 and 11 PPR points. That is not great on like kind of a gross offense that these guys are splitting touches so evenly. I do think though that this was actually a pretty decent sign for Judkins, given the fact that he touched the ball 13 times, had been away from the team, and was productive with those opportunities. So I do think we could see an expanded role in week 3, but it's also a tough matchup, and you're going to have Samson and Jerome Ford still involved. Then for Travion Henderson, this game was a massive bummer. I thought after week 1, he was the more productive running back. We were getting reports that the Patriots are going to shift up their running back usage. When I heard that, I'm thinking, all right, Travion Henderson, like it's going to be time. He's going to have a monster week 2. Apparently that meant we are now going to give Ramondre more opportunities, and all of a sudden we're going to have Antonio Gibson out-touch Travion Henderson. That is really bad. And like at this point, he's not a reliable start. Like I thought he was a fine fringe RB2 last week. It's tough sledding at this point for Travion Henderson. Obviously, you're holding. You're not panic selling. I'm still a believer in the talent. But in terms of like his short-term playability, it's not looking great for Henderson. And then for RJ Harvey, just didn't really make any progress. Only 6 opportunities. Still has the ability to rip off a big play and produce that way. But in terms of being a reliable start, just not there yet. Kareem Hunt going up against the Giants, his usage has been pretty similar to Isaiah Pacheco. He has 17 opportunities through 2 weeks. Pacheco has 20. It's gross. He's not a great player at this point in his career, but he's going to get some usage. And then Algier, you're just hoping they're, leading early on, and then he can have a close like he did last week. And then Tyrone Tracy, this might be a game script that favors him, but his usage did take a massive hit from week 1 to week 2. Now that is going to wrap it up for my top 40 running back rankings this week. If you guys enjoy, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have questions, comments, feel free to drop them down below. Thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.